And what message was delivered?
You better make a deal. You're not going to have anybody left. We're being very careful with the civilian population, as you know, but
a few moments later.
Will you commit to releasing the findings of this investigation?
I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to say what happened there, because if they don't know by now, and as of a couple of weeks ago, they didn't know. And while things like that happen in war,
I cannot believe that you guys are still pretending like this is going okay.
Donald Trump's White House is scrambling as their Iran war narrative seems to be crumbling and falling apart piece by piece. From the ever-evolving justification for the war to the flip-flopping on the straight. And now, after he was recently asked a fairly straightforward question, right? Will his administration release the investigation into the bombing of a girls' elementary school in Manab, Iran, a strike that reportedly killed more than 150 people, including approximately 120 children? Trump's answer was essentially, well, we'll never know what happened.
Will you commit to releasing the findings of this investigation?
I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to say what happened there, because if they don't know by now, and as of a couple of weeks ago, they didn't know. And while things like that happen in war, there are missiles flying all over the place. And I don't know how anybody could say that we shot it.
Because basically the U.S. has Tomahawks. Tomahawks have to be fired from either submarines or from warships. The Brits and the Australians have Tomahawks, but they're not part of this conflict. And then you also have the Japanese, who are in a testing phase. So it seems highly unlikely that it would be anyone's Tomahawk other than a U.S. Tomahawk that hit that school. And I think the president knows that. He just knows that this is certainly a mistake, a big mistake, and it's being investigated, but he's trying to sort of muddy the waters by talking about the Tomahawks.
Yeah, they were.
First of all, quote, missiles were flying all over the place is not an explanation, but the answer itself is indicative of a man way in over his head here, with more questions mounting, especially when you consider that one of the most favorable outlets to the president in the past have been asking tough questions, not just regarding this attack, but his justification on the war as a whole.
And Donald Trump did win the election from support from a lot of people who were non-interventionists. So they were sick of these forever wars. They didn't want involvement in Iran. So if they hear about bridges and they hear about power plants, whether there's the F word there or not, then they're going to think that that sounds a little bit like escalation, which doesn't necessarily make them soft or liberals. It is different, Kellyanne, from I think that there are people certainly who they are wrapped up in they don't like Donald Trump, and can feel like they're rooting against the United States, which is wrong, but it does not apply to everyone. And I think that's an important part of this conversation to distinguish. It doesn't make you anything other than what you've always been, which is a non-interventionist, if you are one of those people. People can believe any collection of things they want to believe. They can be liberal, they can be conservative, they can be independent like I am, and absolutely detest the Iranian regime, and still be concerned when rhetoric starts sounding like escalation, when what you want to see is the opposite of that.
Let's go back a minute here, right, and try to unpack what the president is saying regarding this horrendous tragedy, right? He's saying that the most expensive, technologically advanced military in the world doesn't know what missiles they launched or what targets they were aimed at. Well, as ridiculous as an answer as that is to swallow, let's also remind ourselves of the fact that under the Trump administration, they gutted a department in the Pentagon that specialized in overseeing such operations to try and limit civilian casualties in war.
You know, the argument is that I, a couple years ago, worked alongside my colleagues to pass into law something called the Civilian Protection Center. This is something that's at the Department of Defense, at the Pentagon, something that has personnel who are focused on this effort of ensuring protection of civilians, of reducing the risks that we see unfold here. The problem, though, is Secretary Hegseth decided to gut this office last year, has dramatically reduced down the staff, not implementing the budget that is necessary. Again, this was a bipartisan piece of legislation passed into law that I helped draft. Because of this, you know, I worked at the National Security Council. I've been there for targeting packages for a president to approve. This fault lies directly on President Trump and Secretary Hegseth. They are clearly the ones that gave the orders in terms of how they should go about the risk analysis. And without this type of office, it shows just how much this administration has deprioritized the protection of civilians. And now we find ourselves facing one of the worst losses of life of civilians at the hands of Americans in decades.
But of course, he doesn't want to discuss that. Instead, he expects the American people to swallow this, that nearly 5 months later, the answer may simply be lost forever in the mysterious fog of stuff happens in war. More than 24 senators have demanded that the Pentagon release an unclassified version of its findings. The Pentagon says that the investigation is still ongoing after 5 months. I guess the military's targeting process operates at the speed of light, but its accountability process is being delivered at the same speed as any Epstein-related justice. This is perhaps the clearest illustration of the chaos surrounding this entire war, right? Because what exactly is the objective now?
The investment will come, what does it add to the 17 trillion that he says that we've already gotten, or whatever number he comes up with?
I think we're at 19 trillion now.
19 trillion.
21 left.
It's hard to keep up with.
Yes, it's going all too fast, and it's all too farcical for my simple liberal mind. I cannot believe that you guys are still pretending like this is going okay. Bombs and missiles didn't work. Diplomacy definitely didn't work. That MOU, which everybody in their right mind, so not you, Jesse, said, you know, this doesn't seem like a good idea. We're giving them a lot. Within, a few days, we had to yank back the waivers for the oil.
What did we do? We didn't give them any money.
You let them start shipping out, making money. You gave them access
and oil prices fell to $70 bucks
But you know
a barrel.
what's really interesting? So that inflation report was good. I said, oh my God, the biggest drop since April 2020, right? So 4.2% down to 3.5. Okay, I'm preparing for the 5. I want to make sure I want America to succeed. I want us to not pay too much. But I'm also wondering, what's the hitch? This is a huge drop. What's the difference maker? Oh, we had the fake promise of a diplomatic solution to this. Well, what does Trump do? It's like, oh, there's a good inflation report. Maybe I should do the thing that jacks up inflation right away. I should declare war again. But this time I'm going to, quote unquote, ask Congress. Maybe they'll do a war powers vote again. Maybe then I'll just have to say, I actually respect Article 1 for the first time ever. And they did it, right? This is on Congress now. I can't do anything because I have such respect for the Constitution. That's my scenario.
That was hard to follow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
With all due respect, it was almost funny, but then it got hard to follow.
Can you at least applaud Trump's...
The Constitution that threw you off?
No, it was the fact that Trump wanted to create inflation. I didn't get
it. This jacks up prices if you go back to war.
Still lower than what it was under Biden.
Yes. Let's have a bipartisan moment.
Preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, protecting commercial shipping, keeping the Strait of Hormuz open, forcing a new nuclear agreement, changing Iran's government, or simply just bombing Iran until Donald Trump personally feels that Iran has been sufficiently bombed?
If we ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time. We have some that are really enthusiastic. They're coming already. This isn't need. Need would be one of the big boys. If we need their mine boats, or if we need anything, any piece of apparatus that they may have because of a situation that they have, they should be jumping to help us. We want them to come and help us with the Strait. My attitude is we don't need anybody. We're the strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them.
You don't have to take these concerns from Democrats that Trump would just dismiss as fake news. You can take it from Fox News, the real fake news, because even the network whose standard method of assessing any Trump level performance or tasks at hand is normally to ask, well, was this historic or was it the most historic thing that Trump's ever done? But they have had trouble selling this war as an identifiable success.
They're better off than they were before the hostilities began.
There's also a lot of talk about this $300 billion fund that they may soon have access to. Nobody is disputing that that is a thing.
I hate to say this. In this deal, the biggest loser is the United States and India.
You negotiate from strength. You don't give people money.
I will say that the early returns do not look wildly promising at this point.
America has given up all of its leverage in this situation.
Let's be very clear. This is the vice president's deal. It does not have support.
The regime has not changed. They're just richer.
I do have concerns about the memorandum of understanding.
I didn't believe it. I thought somebody was spoofing me.
Unless you were homeschooled by a day drinker, no one's confident that Iran's going to do anything.
How about the guys and gals that bled and died on our country's behalf? Where's their fun? I didn't see that in MOU.
This doesn't feel like a victory.
Hosts have argued that Trump's Iran policy lacks clear political objectives, sufficient public support, and there's no defined way out of it, while also running mashups of the 50+ times that Donald Trump has claimed victory regarding this war. And even once supportive retired military officers are writing for Fox and concluding that the United States is drifting between striking Iran, pausing, negotiating, striking again, and then declaring victory because no better answer is available. So when Fox News are struggling to locate the victory over this very expensive and deadly war, at a certain point, it stops looking like a victory, right? And starts looking like a prolonged disaster that has cost billions of dollars, has cost American lives, as well as the lives of school children, which we are just told now we'll never get to the bottom of.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.